meeting of the Currituck County Commissioners. The first item on our agenda will be the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. It will be led by Reverend Walter Gallup, retired United States Air Force chaplain. I will ask everyone to stand. Remove your hat, please.
David, commissioners serving and new commissioners to serve. I generally write a prayer for this occasion, but this is a special time of the year, and I want to use a classic prayer that has been around for many centuries. It's a prayer of St. Francis, and I'd like to share that, and I think it gives us some thoughts and opportunities to look at life in this special occasion. Let us pray. Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that we may be so much to seek you, to be consoled and not to console, to be understood as to understand you, to be loved and to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, it is in dying that we are born to life anew. This is our prayer. Hear our prayer, O Lord. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Gallup.
Mr. Chairman, I have one amendment to the agenda.
And, okay.
I'd like to add B1, ABC appointment.
Okay. Any other changes to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll move for approval of the minutes for November the 21st, 2016.
So moved.
And excuse me, I'm getting out of order here because what I'm going to do, you brought that motion up properly, so what would be the...
You need a second.
Okay, I'll second that. I'll second Commissioner Gilbert's motion.
Where are you placing this?
B1.
B1.
B1. Okay.
B like boy.
Down to new business?
That'll be under approval, it'll be under call of order.
Okay, got it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, opposition, motion passes unanimously. All right. Next item will be approval of minutes, and that was for the meeting of November the 21st, 2016.
Move for approval.
I have a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, opposition, motion passes unanimously. So then the next item would be the B1, it would be the ABC Board.
Mr. Chairman, I made a motion to appoint Sybil O'Neill and Vance Idlet to the ABC Board with a delayed effective date, and I'd like to amend that motion to be effective immediately.
It would actually just be a motion, a new motion. It would not be an amendment to a previous motion.
So I'll make a motion to appoint Sybil O'Neill and Vance Idlet to the ABC Board, effective immediately.
I'll second that.
I have in opposition to this, we have already previously voted on this, and at the last moment to change something that was previously approved without prior knowledge, I would ask that we dump through this.
Well, I'm making this motion because it's the last line item of business that this board needs to make. That those appointments were under the current board, and that it needs to be effective under this current board.
And Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right, we have one in opposition, that'd be Commissioner Hall. All right, next item will be Commissioner's recognition and presentation.
That's me. Mr. Chairman, if I could have you come up front and center. Fellow commissioners, if you could join me. Mr. Griggs, I am excited, and I would be remiss if I didn't say that I just want to thank you on behalf of the Board of Commissioners for being our chairman, and I want to present this small plaque. It's to the chairman of the Board of Commissioners from December 15th through December 16th in recognition of your outstanding leadership and service to the citizens of Currituck County. You have been just an outstanding leader. You've done your research. You used some big words that some of us, had to look up in the dictionary, according to Mr. O'Neill. But just want to let you know that on behalf of the citizens of Currituck County, thank you for your service. It's a thankless job, and your friendship, your mentorship has meant a tremendous to each one of us on this board. So I just want to present this to you and just let you know.
Well, I guess few words are appropriate, and unlike the historical approach, I'll try to make them few. And I'll use small words. It's been an honor and a distinction to serve the people of this county. It really has. My family's lived in this county for over 200 years, and it was an honor to give something back. It was an experience. I learned a lot, and I am pleased that this board that is going out and the new board that will be coming in will be the beneficiary of the past 4 years, and really in truth, the years preceding that will leave this county in extraordinarily good financial condition. Our debt is low, our ratings are high, we are the envy of northeastern North Carolina in many areas. Going forward, we have many good things that are in the pipeline that will be coming to fruition under this new board's tenure. We have, during the tenure of this board, the last 4 years and preceding, we have provided to this county a lot of capital assets. We have increased economic development. We have provided projects that have been good for the county in parks and recreation. One of the things, Commissioner Vance is not here tonight, one of his major projects was the ballparks and whatever, and my son played ball here for Currituck, both in rec ball and high school. And as we traveled northeastern North Carolina to play ball, I always felt Currituck could do better, and we have. So again, thank you for trusting me.
And I also have a little something for our outgoing Commissioner, Paul O'Neill. Paul, I've served with you for the last 6 years, and we've done great things for Currituck. The infrastructure, the projects, the funding, and it's just my honor and pleasure to, I'm presenting you with the flag of Currituck, and as an outgoing appreciation gift. And I can't thank you guys. I mean, your friendship, your leadership has meant a tremendous amount to me personally and to the board and to the citizens of Currituck County. So
Thank you very much. certainly not the orator that my fellow Commissioner Griggs is, but
You set me up.
he taught me that word, orator. But I do have to say it's been 20 years that I've been on the Board of Commissioners, which for some of y'all, that is like the best news ever that I'm leaving tonight. But I know there's several of you that have supported me and helped me throughout this time, and I do appreciate it. I want to give a big shout out to our Sheriff's Department and our fire and EMS folks. They show up when we're sitting down eating dinner. They go out, they answer the call. To our staff here in the county, you know, when you come up to the courthouse, you're not coming here because you're looking to kill time or to find something to do. You're here because you've got a problem or an issue. And I do believe that our staff has tried to solve and help folks as much as they can. Sometimes they have to tell you no with a smile on their face, knowing that you don't like it and you're not accepting of it. But I think that they have done an exemplary job all the years that I've been here. Thank you. I do want to recognize the 4 people that I'm leaving behind and the 3 people that are coming on. I have confidence that they're going to do a wonderful job for Currituck County, and I hope that you'll support them and give them encouragement. They need it. Thank you.
One last acknowledgement on Vance Islet, who was not here this evening. He has been just an outstanding partner and colleague through some personal life-changing events that he's had in his life. He has stayed true to his belief and his honesty. He has the highest level of integrity of anybody that I know. And he is surely going to be missed on this board. His knowledge, his expertise, his history in this county is just outstanding. And he is just a true mentor, a friend, and just a great person. And he is surely going to be missed up here on this bench. So, again, just a shout out to Vance, so I'd like to give him some acknowledgement also.
Well, no, I will say something. This is been 2 years as a commissioner, and I will say the current board has stepped up, reached out to help me learn this government and the processes, and help me answer any questions I had. And anytime I called them with a question, any of them up here would help me out. And with the vast knowledge that Mr. O'Neill has had and Commissioner Griggs, I just want to thank you, each one of y'all up here, for the past 2 years with your help and support. Helped me grow as a commissioner and helped me with understanding some of the decisions that need to be made. I want to thank you again. Thank you. Okay.
Commissioner Beaumont, you might want to. Ray Matuka?
Good night.
I would like to thank the Board of Commissioners for inviting me out to do the swearing in of the re-elected commissioner and the new commissioner. It's truly an honor. Do you have someone that will honor for you? Okay, here's what you left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand. Do you, Paul Beaumont, solemnly and sincerely swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States, that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, and that you will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, so help you God.
I did.
And do you, Paul Beaumont, swear that you will well and truly execute the duties of the office of Currituck County Commissioner according to the best of your skill and ability and according to law, so help you God?
I did.
Congratulations, sir.
Mary Etheridge.
I'd like to introduce my husband. This is Fred Etheridge, my daughter, Mary Tanya, my other daughter, Catherine Ann, and my little granddaughter, Lily. And I'd like to thank my son-in-law, Kenneth, and Josh, and my brother-in-law, Ray. And I would like also my campaign manager, Diane Nordstrom, to come up she's helped me tremendously, and I could have done it without her.
Do you, Mary Etheridge, solemnly and sincerely swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States, that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional power and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, and that you will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of your knowledge and ability, so help you God?
I did.
And do you, Mary Etheridge, swear that you will well and truly execute the duties of your office as a Currituck County Commissioner according to the best of your skill and ability and according to law, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations.
Bobby Hanig.
I like your bottle, so.
Thank you, sir. This is my daughter, Lila. She's going to hold the Bible for me.
You will place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand. Do you, Bobby Hanig, solemnly and sincerely swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, and that you will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of your knowledge and ability, so help you God?
I do.
And do you, Bobby Hanig, swear that you will well and truly execute the duties of your office as Currituck County Commissioner according to the best of your knowledge, skill, and ability, and according to the law, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations.
All right. This is my son Seth, and my wife Wendy.
Okay.
I'm gonna get you to work on. Need that? All right.
Do you, Bob White, solemnly and sincerely swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, and that you will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, so help you God?
I do.
And do you, Bob White, solemnly swear that you will well and truly execute the duties of your office, Currituck County Commissioner, according to the best of your skill and ability, and according to the law, so help you God?
I will.
Stuck you in the middle.
Alrighty then.
The general statute of the state of North Carolina requires that the Board of Commissioners at their first meeting in December organize their board. And so tonight, as your first action, you elect a chairman, followed by the election of a vice chairman. Placing a name into nomination does not require a second. And if we have more than one nomination, we'll take them, voting them by the order that they were presented. So with that, I will open the floor for nominations of chairman of the Currituck County Board of Commissioners.
I nominate Bobby Hanig.
And I also nominate Mike Payment.
is it appropriate to have some comments at this point regarding
If you'd like to,
nomination?
certainly.
Yeah, I would like to make a comment regarding my nomination. And first of all, I want to thank the consideration for the nomination of chair. And I'm going to accept that nomination. Not for the fact that it gives any more power to a commissioner, because all the commissioners have equal duties, equal voting powers, and they all earn the same respect amongst the fellow commissioners out there. But I do take this nomination with the corporate leadership and the training with team building that I've learned while working for a global corporation and while within the military. It has strengthened my leadership skills. I've also have proven chairman leadership with Air Conditioning Contractors of America, which is a large network of contractors in our industry, to help them set their goals, see them through, see them get accomplished, and as well as meeting up in Washington, D.C. to help them see those get brought to the right representatives. And then 2 years of experience here. It's done well for me, learning a lot of our local government, working with the staff, understanding their goals, understanding the county needs. And as a life growing up here, I know the rich heritage of Currituck, as well as the challenges that the county has with its growth, both positive and negative. And I've reached out to all the board members, and I thank them for taking the time to talk with me about this position. And I do want to thank Commissioner Hall. We had a meeting on Friday, and to discuss this. And again, I just want to thank Commissioner Hall. He did mention to me that a lot's changed over the past few weeks. He had to take some time over the weekend, sit down with his wife, discuss it with his wife, and he'd give me a call back, which he did, and I thank him for that. So with that, that's all I'd have to say. Thank you.
And I'd also like to make a comment. I nominated Mike Payment because he has served the Board of Commissioners for the last 2 years and has shown some leadership skills. I also had a conversation with Mr. Hanig, and I applauded him for stepping up to the plate and giving me a call because I didn't speak to any of the other commissioners. I reached out to them as far as their thoughts on chairmanship. And I did tell Bobby that I applauded him for stepping up to the plate, but there's legalities, there's some items that he will learn at Commissioner School, and in public I will say I gave him my commitment that if next December, if he wanted to be chairman, that I would support him in that effort. But at this point in time, I felt that, my allegiance and my commitment was to Mike Payment, so that's why I have nominated Mike for the chairmanship.
I did not prepare a statement this evening. I will say that, sorry, can you hear me now? I also have had leadership training and led workforce development board, military training. The county has spoken. The county wants change. The country wants change. I feel like I'm the man that can bring this crew together and make some great decisions for the county. Thank you.
We will vote on chairman in the order that they were placed in nomination. So the first name was Mr. Bobby Hanig. All in favor, please say aye.
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 One, two, three. So that's four. Okay. That is a majority. So with that, Mr. Hanig, congratulations. You are the chairman of the Currituck County Board of Commissioners. Mr. Hanig, Mr. Chairman, I will turn the meeting back over to you for the nominations and election of the vice chairman.
And with that, I will call for nominations for a vice chair.
I nominate Mike Payment for vice chair.
I nominate Mike Paul.
I'm going to excuse myself from that nomination. Thank you, though, I appreciate that.
Any other nominations? At this time, I would call for a vote for Bob White. I'm sorry. As for Mike Hall as vice chair. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. With that, we have 4 ayes. That is affirmed as Mike Hall as vice chair. If I can take a minute to make a few statements, and then we'll go into recess. Excuse me for just 1 second. Like I said, I'd like to say a few words before we take a short recess and begin our meeting. Thank you. Thank you to the outgoing commissioners for your dedication and service to our great county. To the county staff, thank you very much for making our transition smooth, informative, and a welcoming experience. You have truly made us feel like we belong here. To family and friends, your support and encouragement has been unbelievable. I'm prepared to take on this honored position because of the guidance, advice, experiences you have shared, and lessons I've learned from you. You're all a bunch of amazing people. To my daughter, Lila Gray, thank you for your encouragement and believing in me. You're my inspiration. You're my everything. To the new and existing board members, thank you for entrusting me to help guide us. I very much consider it an honor and not a position I take lightly, and I will give it my all. To accomplish great things, you must be surrounded by great people, and that's what I see to my left and my right, and I'm truly proud to be a part of this organization. Sorry, I'm getting a little choked up. I'm looking forward to the many challenges ahead and for us to come together as a team to make the right decisions for this great county. Last but not least, I would like to thank the citizens of Currituck County. Thank you for your support and your confidence in us, in this board. It's an honor and a privilege to serve you. Let's all come together and keep Currituck great. Thank you. At this time, we're going to take a 15-minute recess. We will reconvene at 6:45. Thank you. Okay, the December 5th, 2016 Board of Commissioners meeting is back in session. First order of business is approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, motion for approval.
Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Do we have any discussion or any changes we'd like to make?
Mr. Chairman, I wish to place on the agenda discussion involving the Board of Commissioners meeting times and public comment. Could add that to the agenda.
Okay, we will put that under new business.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to have the ABC appointments put on the agenda.
Okay.
Were you going to add them at under A or under C? New business?
Yeah, C for board appointments.
We ask you to speak up because we can really.
Sorry, okay. Bring it a little closer, how's that?
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
We're going to add these out?
We're going to add board appointments under C. And,
C.
correct. And we would put Kitty's motion under new business, and we would make that D.
Moving D.
Moving
Let's move to page Yeah, make each one further down. D
Sorry.
becomes E, E
Right.
becomes F.
Okay. Any further additions or subtractions or deletions? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So moved. Our next item on the agenda is the administrative reports. We're going to have a presentation for the Moyock Park Design by Laughing Gull.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to start that off tonight. Currituck County, at our Commissioners Retreat last January, the staff was directed to move forward with identifying land and a potential location for a park in the Moyock community. We have done that. In part of that process, the county contracted with Laughing Gull Design. Jim Connors is one of our local landscape architects. He helped us with the renderings and the design work. And what we've done is the staff has went up into Moyock and held a series of meetings with the public regarding this property. There's generally been a lot of support for a park in Moyock, and that was one of the implementation steps that actually came out of the Moyock Small Area Plan Committee meetings. The county owns 25 acres of land, approximately 25 acres of land in the Shingle Landing subdivision. We have programmed that 25 acres as a park property. I'm going to ask Mr. Connors to come up tonight and just kind of walk you through some of the background and kind of what our output looks like. And we're giving this to the board tonight in hopes of continuing to move forward with this park process and move towards design and hopefully civil drawings at some point in the future. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Connor at this point.
And if you can go back to that first one. I'd like to start off with this this overhead. Well, let me back up. First, welcome to the new commissioners. Congratulations. And it's a pleasure here being in the Currituck community again to explain the culmination of a process that, and looking into my calendars today, has taken about 9 months to get to this point with the park. This slide is just a placeholder for me to remind that in addition to the rendered plan here, I wrote up a little report that explains a little bit in further detail some of the different elements of the park. But go ahead, Ben. This plan represents the culmination of, a 9-month process that involved 3 different public input and comment meetings from the public. And it also involved quite an analysis of the site. And before we even started thinking about what kind of recreational elements were appropriate for this, property, we started analyzing the soils, the hydrology, the history of the Moyock community, the vegetation. There's just all kind of things that went into the analysis. We did all that analysis before we even met with the public the first time. We met with the public the first time at the middle school, and we started hearing some very good things from the public immediately. To point out some of those comments from the first meeting, we learned that access to the park from Applewood Drive was not desired. We also heard about some issues that they were concerned with that didn't really relate to the park property itself, but we were able to address some of those concerns through the design process. One of those was hydrology. As I go around and describe some of the different elements of the park, we're going to keep coming back to hydrology because that was a very significant part of our analysis and, the ultimate design. But on this screen here, if we start up at the upper left corner, up about here, we have a pedestrian plaza that emanates off the walkway that would be installed as part of the Arrowhead Lane extension. That walkway connects with the Baxter Lane Estates up to the north. If you take this walkway, there's a perimeter walkway that measures about 3/4 of a mile. Now, as you go on down this walkway, you'll pass the pavilion area, which is, consider this kind of like a park headquarters. It is an open-air pavilion suitable for some groups to meet, but it's also got the bulk of the parking for the park, and it's central to 3 different playgrounds, which I'll go over a little bit in a moment. The first playground is rather traditional. That's what we see, one of the all-inclusive, multifaceted play structures like what they have at the Currituck Community Center on Shortcut Road. I'll show some photos of the spray play and some land sculpting ideas, but back to this walkway. As you go on around, you'll pass a pond, and I think now might be an appropriate time to go ahead and mention that during our site analyses, one of the issues that the community, the Shingle Landing community, brought up was storm drainage through their neighborhood. Right now, where this gazebo on the pond is shown, it's almost straight out the boardwalk. There's an existing ditch system. Well, there's ditches all over this property, but they all converge right there. And there's a culvert under the road that goes back through the Shingle Landing community. The hydrology concept that we came up with in laying out this park cuts that off. It eliminates that completely, that passing under the road and through the Shingle Landing community. And what we're doing with our pond, which, by the way, the pond, of course, is required for storm drainage maintenance, and but we're trying to take it and make it beyond a retention pond, make it an aesthetic and functional pond. But anyway, what we're doing with that is trying to capture all the water on the property and funnel it out here to the northwest part of the property, where currently the county is working toward installing a walkway down to Shingle Landing Creek. There's a ditch along that route. It would need to be improved, but I think it's a good concept for solving a lot of problems with the hydrology in that community. This pond has also got a bioswale that extends out to the western part of the property, and part of that's just to give an elevation fall so that we can get some storm drainage down to that point, and then it can just flow on out that way. The wetland and bioswales are meant not as much. Bioswales are traditionally, you perk the water out through the bottom of that. Well, our analysis told us that these are Roanoke soils, which are not great for percolation. They're not great for much of anything, but according to book. But we know that development still goes on Roanoke soils. But my point, though, is that the bioswale is not going to perk out a lot of water, but it will act as a filtering agent for stormwater quality management, again, going through the wetlands. And the very evapotranspiration of plants will help some with that water. Let me go through a couple of slides to explain a couple of elements of this park. Along the trail, which again is a three-quarter mile trail going around all the way, we're showing some fitness stations on the plan. They're the red stars. These are family friendly. They're very low key. Let's go on to the next one. They can be used by multiple age groups, and we kind of got these because of their simplicity in construction, but also because they don't have any mechanical parts, and the idea is they will withstand our environment out here a lot better. Splash play area, go ahead. That's back to the park headquarters area where we've got splash play. This is what a splash playground looks like. There's no swimming pool involved in this. There are individual elements that spray, tinkle, and squirt children on a hot day. But the water is then recycled, and it meets, the appropriate health department codes like for a pool. But again, I want to emphasize, no swimming pool is being proposed for this park. That was a lightning rod among some in the community. Okay. Here's another picture of a splash play area. You get the sense of the individual play elements, some drip water, some spray, some squirt. There's a few of these individual splash play elements in the pool area at the Currituck Community Center. On the next slide, this is actually a photo that I took in Japan when I had my daughter there about 10 years ago. But it's showing the natural inclination of children to play. They're inquisitive, they're exploring. And what that has, I use this as a leader to the next, the natural playground and land sculpted area up here. The idea behind natural play is that you turn the kids loose and let them play, you can have rolling hills in there, which is depicted in this slide. You can have whimsical statues or forms coming out of the earth, or for this area here, I just did on the plan view a little bit of an enlargement to show a boat playground and these wood carvings that I've got shown here. These could be, go ahead. These could be some little animals like this, and you could actually go down to that gentleman on 168 in Currituck, and he will carve you these things. He's done them for municipal properties before, but the idea, again, behind the land sculpting natural play is just something a little different where you can turn the kids loose. Now, I'm one of those that like to go local. I'm a local landscape architect. I very much appreciate being hired by Currituck to work on this. So again, it's that element of go local, but that's a very talented gentleman. The pond. This is a fairly large pond here for the property, and it's going to take some means to recirculate that water so we can put a large fountain in there, and it serves both for the recycling of the water or recirculation, but also it's a striking visual element that adds the ambiance to something that we're envisioning for this park, as shown in the next slide, where you can have walkways around the pond. We've got walkways all around this pond here with various seating elements. We've got a boardwalk that crosses over onto an island to a gazebo where people can look up and down. Now, toward the final, this is just another graphic enlargement of one of the picnic areas. That one is this one here. A drawing done at this scale, 1 inch equals 60 feet. It's hard to show picnic tables and benches and things like that. So that's why on the overhead slide, y'all are seeing it too. The overhead slide, I'm just showing us some groupings of picnic tables. That's where we would add the tables and grills, the yard games, and a bunch of other associated things that would be identified in further design. I've also got shown bike racks here. That's an important element in the whole concept of this park. This park is designed to draw people by foot traffic or by bicycle in addition to cars. Let's try the next one. This is actually something I worked with the county on a few years ago over on the beaches. I included it because that's the whole concept of a street plaza, where I've got the street plaza shown down by the intersection of Moyock Landing and Arrowhead Lane, but the street plaza up where we initially entered this property in this description. It's just this slide is showing where you can have some bike racks, benches. There's a water fountain that was provided on the Monterey Plaza or Park over in Corolla. But also, this whole Arrowhead Lane, what we're doing is showing an alley of trees. And since Moyock means place of the oaks on the trail, or some derivative of that as translated from Algonquin, I can easily envision an alley of live oaks here to help define the sense of space for this Moyock community. The plaza could be used for small time like bazaar sales, or a place where locals can go sell their homegrown food. It's just a community place. Another couple aspects that was identified in the analysis was the vegetation. And so what we're doing is showing some reforested areas, which would be primarily loblolly pine because of their rapid growth. But in the write-up, I've suggested that we could add, a certain percent, say 25% of a mix of other things like hickory, beech, or, some others. That site right now, I doubt that there's a tree on it unless it's real tight along this northern property line. So every tree on here is something that's proposed. I think that I could keep on going with all kinds of detail on this, but I'm not sure time is really that abundant here. So,
Mr. Woody, could I ask a quick question? One thing I did not see yet, and there was some discussions about the handicap, and I think Parks and Rec was here, and we're going to add some stuff. Are there specific locations on there where those are going to be addressed as far as for the water side of it, or for the swing? And I don't know if
I would think, Commissioner Payment, the county would absolutely make as many features ADA accessible as possible. I think that just goes into the design. At this point, this is just kind of high-level stuff. So when we get into, if we move this project forward and we get into the civil design work and Jim can go drill down, I think you'll start to see those ADA accessibility elements come into the playground, the spray ground, and all the different elements.
what this is the master plan to guide the further development where the I envision everything out here being handicapped accessible, except maybe some elements at this land sculpting natural play area. This thing definitely needs some engineering work because this whole hydrology, what we're managing is not just the storm waters that fall onto this property, but when we fill up all these existing ditches, that's going to have an effect on raising the water table here. So the critical elevations are going to be the ponds, water level, the water table, and the outflow up here on the northeast corner of the property. Now, I shouldn't say this, but a lot of times engineers will look at a drawing like this and call it a cartoon. But it's a well-thought-out cartoon, and the intent is to serve as a planning document as, for example, the county may decide to develop this area first. Then we got to get down to the nitty-gritty and make sure everything is handicap accessible, and handicap accessibility should not be a problem out here.
If I could add one more element, that's a good point, is as this process moved forward, we had 3 public meetings. Through the course of those 3 meetings, I would say well over probably 100 people attended those meetings in person. We had a survey that was released. Through the course of that survey, we had 300 responses. I believe about most of the elements you see in this plan are a reflection of comments we heard through the surveys or through the public meetings. So a lot of the things that you're seeing in terms of recreation elements are based on public input, and some of the things you don't see aren't on the plan because they didn't appear to have support from the public. So, and one more context to this is this tract of land, obviously you can drive to. It's off Moyock Landing Drive. But when some of the subdivisions are built out in and around this tract of land, you'll have about 500 houses that'll be connected to this park with sidewalks. So you got to think about 500 households can walk to this property to recreate. So we've got the opportunity to bring in not only cars, but also pedestrians in our community. So,
do you envision a way to be able to lower the water level in the pond?
To lower the water level in the pond? A lot of that would be through manipulation of the outfall over here. Because this is, right now, they're about 3 foot deep ditches. And lowering the water.
The reason I'm suggesting that is we recently experienced, in Moyock being one of the hardest hit, especially around this park, is the ability to absorb stormwater events. And the most common technique is increase the buffer capacity of that storm, of that pond, in order to be able to accept the initial onslaught. you know the weather event is coming. So part of what they can do is pump down a BMP or a pond so that that ditch that's now going to be draining from upstream isn't going to be handling all the water coming off of that site at the same time.
That's a good question that I did not address, the pre-storm pumping out. That's something I would have to defer to some engineers on but in
It's
theory,
the
it sounds right.
hydrology question.
Excuse me?
It's a hydrology.
Yeah.
And it is a cartoon.
Well, and this last storm that we had, Matthew, influenced this final design too, because I understand the intersection here at Moyock Landing and Arrowhead Lane flooded, and so what I did was extend this bioswale on out so that to give the county engineers or engineers who are going to have to work on this, give them an option that's maybe to have a release valve through there. But that gets into some off-site hydrology issues and stuff that we would.
I think one of the things that Matthew brought to our attention is if there can be a worst-case scenario, we need to try to plan however we possibly can to anticipate that requirement. And it's a lot easier to do it ahead of time than when that entire park's underwater.
Oh, yes.
And everyone around is complaining because it's the park's fault.
Yes, that's true. There's another thing I wanted to mention that as we add vegetation, now again, given this master plan stage, we don't go down and start putting shrubs and bushes and everything, because again, a little dot, that's all it's showing. But the trees we're trying to show some trees that, like bald cypress, river birds, that will suck up that water to help lower it has some benefit. They say one mature tree can transpire up to 500 gallons of water. I don't know about that, but it's just a forested site.
That's about a 48-inch caliper oak, to give you an idea. And it will pull that much water.
It will.
Once it's 48 inches around.
The idea is to have enough of those out there to have a helping effect. We can't depend on vegetation. I mean, forest flood too.
Our grandkids will love it when they get that. But who aren't born yet.
I do want to mention, I hope this gathers the support of the commissioners, because I've been designing parks for close to 30 years now, and that is hands down, as a landscape architect, the most pleasurable thing that I work on. Because I can go back 20 years and see kids playing today on things I worked on 20 years ago. So this really is a vision for the future for the Moyock community and all of Currituck.
Ben, a quick question. Will this go to be approved or for another public hearing or for public consumption before it gets voted on? Or is this the final?
I would say from the staff planning side of it, I think we've completed our public input opportunities for the public. I feel good about this being out in front of the public. From your side of things, Dan, you know an answer in terms of timing, how they would move forward?
The way this project is tracking right, or scheduled to track right now, is that we will bring this project to you at your board retreat to see how it integrates with the other capital projects that the board may be looking to do, to prioritize it, to determine whether we need to move at that stage into civil engineering. So right now, unless the board wants to do something different, it'll be coming to you at your board retreat.
Okay. One more question. Has anyone been there since, Matthew, to see if there was water from the storm?
We did. The staff went to a lot of the subdivisions in the Moyock area following these storms, and Shingle Landing, all things being relative, did very well, and this property did as well. So to give context, this is 25 acres of land, and when you look at it, there's very little impervious surface in terms of percentage. So I would argue that this property has potential to do anything. What it's going to do is probably help drainage overall. And from what I could view, there's not a big drainage problem. There's some areas where there's drainage problems, but in general, I think this land did well, and so did the subdivision around it, compared to older subdivisions.
Okay. Any further questions? Thank you for the presentation. I can really tell that it's your passion. It's very thorough and very detailed. We appreciate it.
Before I leave, I'd like to thank the county for the opportunity to work with them on this, and also thank the county staff, in particular Ben and Sheriff Johnson and so many others. It's been a pleasure.
Jason.
Thank you.
And Jason Weeks. He's here.
Don't forget Jason.
Yeah, Jason was really involved in this, the Parks and Recreation Director, and he was out in front of this at several meetings, so I think he can attest that this has had a thorough public input process.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is public hearing action on PB 16-18, Lauren Berry, a request to amend the Unified Development Ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a public hearing for a text amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance. Just to give a little context, this did stem from a specific property located here in Currituck County. The county received complaints about a commercial fishing operation that was occurring in a neighborhood. The county staff went out and investigated those complaints. We did issue a violation. At that point, the owner of the property petitioned the county, which is one of their options, to amend the ordinance to allow commercial fishing operations. So while this stems from a complaint at a specific property, the manner that you're going to consider this tonight is countywide. So you got to think about it in the broader context. Commercial fishing and crabbing operations has something that's occurred in the county for a long time, obviously, and it's something that comes up as an issue from time to time when these operations are occurring in residential areas, particularly areas that have smaller lots that are residentially zoned. And to give some context, right now the county does not have a specific allowance for commercial fishing operations. So they exist. In the ordinance, there is a allowance for crab shedding, so there is a permit you can get in certain zoning districts for crab shedding, but just the general act of being a commercial fisherman, there's nothing in the ordinance that either prohibits nor really denies that. The way most of the commercial fishermen operate would be under what's called our home occupation standards right now. So if you're in Currituck County and you live in a residential neighborhood or a house, you can operate a business as a home-based business or home occupation, but in doing so, you're subject to certain restrictions. A lot of those relate to limited amounts of employees that can come to work, limited amounts of traffic, no signage, no outdoor storage. Essentially, if you operate as a home occupation, if I were to ride by your house, I wouldn't know there was a business there necessarily, except for maybe a very small sign. So as you can imagine, most commercial fishing operations probably are unable to meet the home occupation standards because perhaps when they're out fishing and things, you may not notice it, but at some point there's probably stacks of crab pots or whatever else there may be. So right now the county could allow a commercial fishing operation in an agricultural or residential zoning district, but of course that would be under the home occupation standard, again, which most probably can't meet. Now another option would be, just to put it out there, is you could do some of the warehousing and shipping elements of commercial fishing. That could occur in a commercially zoned piece of land. So there is the option to have commercial properties to do this from. But again, if we're back in residentially zoned properties or agriculturally zoned properties and you're doing commercial fishing, you're probably going to have a tough time meeting the home occupation standards. When Ms. Berry initially submitted this text amendment, what she proposed was to allow commercial fishing as a principal use in residentially and agriculturally zoned properties. What that means is you could buy a piece of land that was zoned agricultural or residential, and you could just do a commercial fishing operation, just like any other commercial use. The staff encouraged her to not proceed in that manner and to put some parameters around it, to have some things in place. So if you are going to commercial fish and you're going to do it in a residential setting, there's some regulations or some things that limit the impact of that commercial fishing operation. So after those initial discussions with Ms. Berry, she did amend her text amendment to add some standards as to how commercial fishing can occur in a residentially or agriculturally zoned piece of land. And that's basically what's before you tonight. That's where we're at. This text amendment has been to the planning board. The planning board made some minor modifications to it, which are noted in your staff report, and the planning board did recommend approval of this on a 7-0 vote. So what I'll do real quickly, just so everybody, the board and everybody here can kind of understand where we're at, I'll go through some of the requirements that are included in this ordinance. And what we're basically talking about, again, is rather than allow commercial fishermen as a home occupation, which has a pretty rigorous set of standards that apply to it, this would create commercial fishing as an accessory use. So what that means is if you have a principal use, so if you live in a house or even if you have a business or if you use your property in some sort of way and you want to do commercial fishing activities, you would be able to do it under this text amendment. However, if you do it under this text amendment, you're going to be subject to the set of standards that you see in the amendment. And the important thing is that to notice is that this is allowing commercial fishing as an accessory use. So under this amendment, you've got to do your commercial fishing in conjunction with something else. So you couldn't, if you went and bought a vacant lot, you would not be able to meet this amendment. So again, you're going to have a situation where you're zoned agricultural, residential, and you've got a house or something else happening on the lot. So let's say that you've done that and you want to do a commercial fishing operation. Some of the standards that would be in place is that, or proposed to be in place, is that the operation has to be located 10 feet from property lines or 50 feet from adjacent dwelling units. So you've got a setback from your property line and your neighbor's house. It would require that no prolonged excessive odor, fumes, or traffic shall be allowed. And what that's trying to do is create a situation where if there is traffic that comes in and out or odor or fumes, that's going to be limited. Now, the one caveat I'll put on the way that's written is that when you say it, if you say something's no prolonged, whatever it is, that it's not quantifiable. So what I think is prolonged, you may not think is prolonged. So there is some uncertainty in that standard, but that's probably something to talk about tonight. This ordinance as submitted does allow for on-premise freezing, packing, and preparation for shipping. So what that means is if you're a commercial crabber or fisherman or whatever and you brought your products in, you could then freeze them and pack them to eventually go out to wherever they go. Additionally, if you're in the agricultural or single-family zoning districts, we have a statement that says accessory use will not change the character of the residential neighborhood in terms of appearance, noise, odors, traffic, and other impacts. And again, character can be subjective. It's not quantifiable necessarily, but so that's something to think about. On-premise signage shall not be allowed, so there wouldn't be a sign advertising the commercial fishing operation. No on-premise retail sales, so I couldn't go to if there is one of these uses permitted, should this ordinance be adopted, I couldn't go there and buy crabs from somebody. That would be a retail sale. Excluding personal vehicles, no more than one truck, van, car, or other vehicle which is visible from the adjacent streets may be kept on the site. So if you've got a commercial vehicle, you can only have one. That one commercial vehicle or trailer can't be larger than 8 feet by 32 feet, which is a very big vehicle. I understand that. But that's actually the same vehicle size that's allowed for home occupation. So if you do a home-based business in Currituck County, you can have a really large vehicle, and that's been the case for a long time. Outdoor storage, which is probably the big issue with commercial fishing, beyond the traffic and things. The way this ordinance is set up, it says outdoor storage shall be subject to the following standards. Outdoor storage shall not exceed 10% of the total lot area. So if you have a lot that's 43,000 square feet, you could have 4,300 square feet of outdoor storage area. Of course, the bigger your lot gets, the bigger that 10% becomes, so that's something to consider. Outdoor storage needs to be buffered from adjacent properties with fencing, a minimum of 6 feet in height, or retained vegetation equivalent to a fence. The reason we said retained is if you plant vegetation, as we just discussed with our oak trees, it takes a long time for vegetation to mature into a screen. So if you're going to have outdoor storage under this amendment, it would have to be fenced or screened using existing vegetation. Outdoor storage located to the side or rear of the structure, that means you can't put it in your front yard. So whatever crab pots or storage you have would be on the side or the rear of the house and be screened. Temporary storage of crab pots should be located inside a building or not exceed the height of the buffer. So if you have crab pots, you can put them in a building, out of sight, out of mind, or if you stack them, they can't be higher than whatever buffer it is you've put up, be it a fence or landscaping. And that is basically the summary of this amendment. What I think the challenge is for the board is probably balancing this with the fishing aspect of it that's occurred in this county for a long time with those type of uses that occur in residential areas, which they do from time to time. So staff's reviewed this request. We do recommend approval of it. The one thing that I will note as a caveat is that it may require some additional discussion on numbers of employees, perhaps numbers of boats that are parked, and maybe quantifying some of these character and other ordinance provisions I've spoke tonight that aren't quite as direct. So staff does support doing something to allow commercial fishermen in this county, but I think when it's in terms of residential neighborhoods, we need to make sure we've got a good set of standards that protects the adjoining property owners as well. And I do think this ordinance is a good start and puts us in a good direction. So with that, I can answer any questions you have here tonight at this point or after public hearing.
I have several.
CAMA permits, and I just read something recently, as I got some emails, phone calls, whichever it might be. It says CAMA permit is only for recreational homeowner, and you're asking it to go to commercial. Is there any conflict there?
Well, it depends on if they would need a CAMA permit. So typically, if they're not building a structure within the AEC, they probably wouldn't even need a CAMA permit. So again, the CAMA permit is going to be triggered by the type of structure they're building generally.
And was this, and it says some things in here, we're talking about houses that are on the water or are we talking about a house in any neighborhood?
It could be a house in any neighborhood. This would allow commercial fishing as an accessory use in any property zoned agricultural or single-family mainland.
And are we talking about home ownership, or if, for instance, you own a house and you rent it to me, and I can put my fishing business there?
It wouldn't distinguish between the manner in which the house is owned or leased. It would just be focused on land use. And I don't even know that you could. I'm not even sure that we could require home ownership as part of this ordinance. I think it's probably more going to be land use based. So yes, a renter of a property could apply for a permit under this ordinance.
And I could have a freezer truck, 18-wheeler trailer sitting on my property as long as it was less than 8 by 32, sitting on my property. And because we allow certain size vehicles, that wouldn't be subject to the 6-foot fence? Is that correct?
Yes, correct. You could have an 8 by 32 vehicle on your property, not only under this ordinance, but under the home occupation ordinance as well.
Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Woody, any residential developments that have an HOA or POA, that still would take precedence over the county ordinance, correct? That would, if they
Correct.
said no businesses or any storage
Correct.
like that.
In any neighborhood with covenants in place, that limited commercial activity could prohibit this use.
Okay.
Independent of this ordinance.
Okay. And you answered one of my questions when we were looking at the vehicles. You'd mentioned the boats. So I guess the size, the height, some of the boats have larger towers on them. Would they be restrictive of the height ordinance as well at that point?
If it was stored as part of this commercial fishing operation, it would have to be screened.
Okay. And then just lastly, I mean, I grew up in this county as a little boy. I mean, I grew up in a small community that on a canal, small quarter-acre lot, if that, probably. No, we had the fishermen. We had people all day long bringing stuff in. And I'd leave bait in my boat sometimes by mistake and crabs. And I'll tell you what, it's an awful odor out there in one day in the summertime. And I can understand the concerns. We've got some of the citizens out there. What I've heard from is the odor is a big issue. Throwing bait over the side into the canals. I know some of it can float up. You can, you got all that bait that they throw in the water too. I know when I was growing up too, I hated swimming in there and all of a sudden you get all this bait and bones and everything sticking. So, I mean, I know there's some concerns. We're going to hear some of the individuals up there, but, again, my father was a fisherman. I know there's fishermen as a history of the county here. We need to do something, but I just want to make sure that we're addressing some of the concerns with some of the local residents out there. And I'm sure we're going to hear from both sides in a moment.
Any further questions? Okay, with
Yes.
Okay.
I get concerned when when we have a text amendment that is a good start, which to me means we're going to do trial by error until we get it right. And I am specifically concerned, and you addressed it, when we talk about prolong. We have terms that we're using to quantify or to limit or to control that are not quantifiable or they're not definable. And you're right. What some person's prolonged may not be another person's prolonged, and I don't know how you address that. But to me, that is the glaring weakness in what I see here, is that there's no way to enforce. Because there's folks that are going to follow this to the law and they're going to be good citizens. And I too share. I've purchased seafood from local watermen in houses that I'm now hoping were legal. Anyway, because they were good. But my concern is that it's not definable, and I don't want to make it. I would prefer that we not approve something and then have a train wreck in trying to get it fixed. And because then I'll tell you, there are people that will make financial commitments based upon this ordinance or this text amendment, and then they've put out money, they've put out capital to either grow their business or improve their business or buy a house on the water, and then while we're trying to fix it, then they're stuck with what we leave behind, leaving us the option: do we grandfather in or do we make them become compliant?
Yeah, this is an amendment submitted by Ms. Berry, so it's not a staff-initiated amendment, but we did work with her pretty closely to get it where it is, and that's why I brought those things up, because I feel like the board should consider those questions before you adopt anything, for the very point you just elaborated. So,
I would like to agree with Mr. Beaumont on that issue. I think some of the wording needs a little bit of cleaning up. It's not clear. There isn't any limits on how much you can freeze. Saying the amount of traffic, not to disturb the neighborhood is a little vague. I think we need some cleaning up on this. Any further comments or statements? With that, I'll open the public hearing. And the first person to speak to this will be Carl Davis. If you can please come up and state your name and your address, please.
I'm Carl Davis, and I live at 306 Bravell Street, which is in Woodard Acres, which has a private road, which the county will not pay because of easement problems. We're very concerned about the situation. I want to thank y'all for letting me speak what I have on my mind. First of all, I've sat here and listened to about 10 or 15 minutes of regs, and I haven't heard anything about enforcement. Who's going to enforce these regs? And then the comment was made, there's an error, somebody's already invested in it, and they're invested in it, and they're going to have to change, lose their money, whatever. Get it right before you make anything. My suggestion is, if you're going to have this rule to go, I know when you rezone a section in the county for a business or something, you put up for opposition people, anybody that doesn't want it, they sign and that's what makes it approved or not approved. Why couldn't the homeowners in a subdivision make that decision that, yes, that they would have no objection to it, or yes, they do have objection to it? And the other thing, we know that there's a lot of residential areas that are not as tightly knitted as Woodard Acres is. We got some little 3/4 acre lots, and one bad apple in that area would smell up the whole neighborhood. And then on the other hand, we have a private road, which I maintain, which we're going to have traffic that's not going to pay anything. They don't have to pay anything to use that road, but there are going to be trucks in and out on that road all the time, and we're going to have to maintain that road for those people. I think I would like to ask you as a commissioner, if one of these operations was coming next to your house, what would you say? That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Next individual will be Steve Kennard. Steve Kennard. Oh, sorry.
Getting rough sitting back here. I'm Steve Kennard. I live at 107 Alex Lane in Moyock. I had one question. Does the ordinance include wholesale of crabs on the property?
This ordinance is written only prohibits retail sales, so it would not prohibit wholesale.
It does not prohibit wholesale?
Not as written, no, sir.
Because we have a wholesale operation on Alex Lane, and the wholesale operation does generate traffic from heavy refrigerator trucks coming up and down the road, and we're a dead-end road and not a thoroughfare. And I do have the planning board's notes, and then on page 3 of 8, they make a statement of no retail sales of products, but wholesale would be allowed. Just would probably, like the gentleman before me, would probably generate some traffic coming up and down the road. I do have some concerns with it. And on the proposal, on the premises of the retail sales of the products shall not be allowed, I would I propose that wholesale be included on that as well, because it will disrupt, and it has disrupted our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kennard. If you can please hold your applause down, the microphones out there pick that up. I appreciate it. The next individual is Wayne Kearns.
How y'all? Wayne Kearns, 116 Womack Drive, Woodard Acres, Currituck, North Carolina. My concern is also, we're zoned. I live with Carl Davis. He does the front half of the road. I do the back half, and it's a private dirt road. We don't need this kind of traffic coming up and down that. I'm not against crabbers, not at all. I work on commercial rigs. I have a shop down in Wanchese, so I'm very familiar with the type of work that they do and what they need to keep going. But we had a fellow move in beside us, and he told me everything that was going to go on and what was going to happen. And I let him do the talking. I said nothing to him. He was going to supposedly buy the house, and he just went on and on. We live in a little 3/4 acre lots. The boats there were small boats that we use ourselves. And we train dogs. I train dogs. The kids swim, and I swim. It's stale water in the summertime. There's no movement. So anything that goes in that water stays there. And it all end up at one end. And of course, if y'all been to the end of a canal, that's where it stays. Like I say, nothing against the commercial fishermen. Not trying to run any of them out of business, but there's certainly other places around here to do this. Down in Wanchese, they use the city docks. Most of the crabbers don't live where they crab out of anyway. So to ask this kind of an ordinance in a small little area like we're at, I think y'all need to really do some sightseeing and some judgment on it before we just go ahead and let them do this, and move in wherever they want to, because that's what it seems like is happening. So I wish y'all would just consider this a little bit more before you just jump onto it. Nothing against the commercial fishermen. They pay my bills. But I think we need to look in this just a little tighter. Thank y'all.
Next name is Gwen Dotson.
Name is Gwen Dodson. We live in Woodard Acres at 119 Womack Drive. And as Wayne was discussing, we had a fisherman move in thinking that he was going to do that. And thank goodness for the help of you all, the other commissioners that left too. We signed petitions against it. And with all the people that we had, we didn't have him move in and take this business into consideration. I think mainly you hear the stories of the horror of the smell, the debris in the canals where it doesn't move, the traffic. We're right across, we're in Coinjock Bay, and we can see the traffic moving on Bell Island. And we can see the commercial fishermen's, the big trailers coming in and out, where, but they have paved roads. We don't. We have almost, like a mile and a half dirt road to maintain. And just like Carl said, and Wayne, they do the maintenance of it. The people that live in the neighborhood, which we have about 26 residence homes, each one pays $30 basically a month. And with that being said, it's a road fund and it's agreeable. If you want to pay, you pay. If you don't, you don't. We don't have any structure, no paperwork saying they have to. And that's the only thing we have going for us, is that at least half of the people in the neighborhood do contribute to the fund. And that's how the sand comes in and the dirt. And Carl, they do it free. They don't take any money for the gas. They don't take any money for their time. And with something like this, there's not going to be a situation where you could probably patrol it. Only complain about it. As neighbors, we would complain. And I know we ran a printing business out of our home, and we had certain guidelines and restrictions. We had certain hours we could operate. We had certain things that we had to deliver them. They couldn't come to our property and pick it up like a regular commercial printer. So I think this is something you all have to really consider and understand that it's not an easy thing to let someone go into a neighborhood with a crabbing business. Commercial mailing, you can do it without being seen. Different things, typesetting, but crabbing, and completely different. And we love our crabs. We really do. Thank you for consideration.
Thank you. The next name would be Lauren Berry. Lauren Berry.
Is the sign sheet still available for the public comment?
Yes.
Can I get that passed back?
Yeah, I'll ask for people to come up after this list is finished. Thank you.
My name is Lauren Berry. I live at 117 Alex Lane, Moyock, North Carolina, 27958. What you have before you is, Mr. Woodley said, he took half of the speech, is that this is a collaboration between the zoning department, the planning board, which was open to the public. So neighbors that had concerns could have gone. It wasn't like a secret back alley meeting. That was open to the public. And what we found is that our current zoning does not allow for our heritage. We were founded in 1668, right after Jamestown. We were known for our watermen. This is a sportsman's paradise. Not only is this something that our county has been founded on, the economic impact and the growth in this county has been based on the hard work of these gentlemen. They stay in this county generation from generation. They work here. They spend their money here. Currituck County has about a 19% higher education percentage. This is an industry that we can protect and allow them to continue to make a living, to support their families, to support the YMCA. They live here. They spend their money here. Money spent locally, I'm sure, as you all know, stays 50% in the economy instead of 15%. I hear a lot about Wanchese. Do we want to give our money to Dare County? This ordinance pretty much allows for the beautification of these neighborhoods. You have the screen or fence or vegetation that will block the views, as well as, and the reason why the verbiage for the prolonged, when we were looking and we were drafting this, we looked at other verbiage in the UDO. Excessive was used, these terms that aren't quantifiable were used, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, that the judgment call comes from the board. They're downstairs. Help me with the name. Yeah. There are code enforcement officers that are already in place to do all the other UDOs in this. In front of you, you have a little packet of the economic impact of commercial fishing in this county. Really, we're talking about a very, very, very small percentage of our population. I believe it's about 100 people. However, those 100 people, you can see the value added and the economic impact as a total. I believe there's a NOAA study for the total economic impact and the jobs created. That was in 2009. They didn't have an update since then. And the reason why we're actually asking for this text addendum in a residential zoning is because the market does not support the expense of a commercial rental and a commercial on the water. I don't know that there's really any property north of the county. There's a few south that would fall under a possible ability to have something like this, but for the average person that's grandfather and great-grandfather, there's not, it just doesn't outweigh. Right now, 80% of our seafood is imported. They have less insignificant environmental practices. You know, there are things in place, but this is something that we can keep buy local. The state has been working on buy local, and it's got to be NC Seafood. There's been a large budget spent on keeping North Carolina businesses in business. I wanted to comment on, I'm not like Woodard Acres, and they're worried about a lot of the truck traffic. The road itself has got to be accessible to an 18-wheeler, and it's got to be able to turn around for an 18-wheeler. So some of the roads that are smaller, you're not going to have that problem because engineering can't go through and turn around. The wholesale is because a lot of the guys, they go out crabbing, they come in, a truck picks it up, it ships it off, and they're done. They are, now as you can see there, $2.3 billion is added to North Carolina's economy just from commercial fishing. And there's only a few coastal towns. 22,000 jobs. I just want you to protect our heritage. Protect what this county was founded on. Protect the beautification of Currituck. That's what this text addendum does, because currently, as Mr. Woody said, a lot of the current operations don't have the visual fencing. As far as the water and the littering, I believe that would be covered under another ordinance with littering. I don't think you're allowed to just dump trash in your yard, so it would probably fall under an overall, because this is a special use or an accessory use. So, you still have all the guidelines for noise. You can't reach over a certain decibel. It's already in place for protection. And I believe that's about it. I just really ask that you support this or give some recommendations on verbiage change, and to remind you that a lot of things that may be brought to a concern are covered under other ordinances. This just allows for a little bit more flexibility for the commercial watermen that hold an actual dealer's license that's already restricted by the market, or commercial dealers or fishermen license that's already cut down by the state as well as just the industry in the total.
Thank you very much. Next person will be Dale Browse.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dale Browse. I live at 114 Alex Lane. I'm not going to sit here and reiterate all the points that have been made up to this point, but there is one issue that hasn't been addressed, and that's property values within the community. By one person having a crabbing operation, and I have nothing against crabbing like everyone else, drastically affects all the other houses within the community. The one thing I do want you to do is please take the time, get together and visit these communities. See what they look like, see what kind of impact they're going to have on the rest of the houses in that community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Can you please keep your applause down? Thank you very much. Next individual will be Wayne Birch.
My name is Wayne Birch. I live at 115 Alex Lane. I'm a commercial fisher, wholesale crabs. I've been doing it for 18 years, and we've never had a problem until now. And it's due to a lot of our neighbors just moving in and whatnot. They haven't been there for long. We had never had a problem with any smell up until now. I mean, we still haven't had that complaint really, but anyway. Anyway, and I support the text amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Birch. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this issue? Please come forward and state your name and address.
Kilmold, 104 Tulls Bay Drive. I'd just like to say I support the commercial fishermen. I've been here in Currituck County for over 50 years. I've had a commercial fishing license ever since I was a child. Commercial fishermen work long, hard hours. It's not an easy job. And it has been part of our heritage forever, since Currituck County's been here. Some of the problem, most commercial fishermen live on the water. They live there, the parents have lived there, the grandparents and the great-grandparents have lived there on the water. That's where they commercial fish from. Number one, there's probably, if any, commercial property available on the waterfront in Currituck. I'm not sure I know of any. If it is, you couldn't afford it not to do commercial fishing. The commercial fishermen have been under assault from everything. The state has shut them down their seasons, cut the seasons down, cut everything back. And, you know, it's a tough job to make a living doing this. And like I said, I've had a commercial fishing license all my life. And I support them any way I can. If anything, the restrictions are overly restricted. I live in the neighborhood with commercial fishermen. Wayne Birch is my neighbor. I don't have any problems with them. I think, you know, and far as property values, affecting property values, I sell real estate for a living. I just sold a house just down the road from Wayne, and it did not affect the property values. Waterfront is just like any other property in Currituck County. Yes, during the recession, values everywhere went down, but waterfront properties are coming back up. So I just, you know, I'm not really prepared to speak fully on this tonight, but I do support them, and I think you should take all of this in consideration because they do generate a lot of business. They sell a lot of product in Currituck, and as the lady said, everybody loves crabs. They just don't want to deal with commercial fishermen, and you gotta support them if you want them. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to this issue?
My name is Melvin Lewis, 1631 Water Lily Road. I went through the same ordeal that we're going through tonight in 1998. Same exact thing. We had numerous complaints at 104 Four Forks Road in Charlotte. And the board commissioners asked me to plant a row of Leyland cypresses around my property. I lived on 4 acres there, and I did, and we never got another complaint the whole time I was there. And frozen bait does not smell. When it's froze, you do not smell it. And when you go crabbing, you use the bait that's in that boat that day, and you don't bring any in and throw it overboard when it costs $20 a flat, because the bait has gone up so much that nobody's going to throw it overboard in the canal. And most of the crabbers clean their boats before they come to the dock. So the opposition said they like crabs. That's all you're going to smell when you come to the dock is the crabs in the bushels. So, I mean, I don't see or the smell or the fumes. I mean, look at the lot over there at Pearls. There's probably 150 boats that leave from there. So I'm sure 150 boats a weekend that leave from there is going to create a lot more fumes than 2 or 3 crab boats. And thank y'all.
Thank you, sir. Next individual.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alice Stringham, and I live at 112 Alex Lane, Moyock, North Carolina. I certainly am not going to dispute the heritage that crabbing has played in Currituck County. It's very important, but I really think we need to think about the future. Currituck County is a big draw for retirees, especially coming from Virginia. It's the sportsman paradise. Everybody wants to be able to have part of that nature, that peace and quiet. Well, I think y'all need to come and see these neighborhoods that are already having problems with these businesses. Come see what's happening to our little piece of sportsman's paradise. You come to my neighborhood, a lot of the nature's gone. Take a look at all the trucks coming down the road all hours of the day and night. The roads are crumbling. They can't support the traffic, and they can't support the weight of the trucks. You can't get past some of the trucks. The roads are narrow. It's a dead-end road. Take a look at the area. I really hope y'all take a sightseeing tour and see exactly what's happening before you vote or decide on what changes you're going to make to this. People are not going to want to come to Currituck if they're not going to be able to enjoy the natural beauty that they've been led to believe is down there. That's why all of us came. I appreciate you letting me talk. Thank you.
Alice, thank you for your comments. Can you please give us your last name again?
Stringham, Stringham.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay, with no more public comments, I'm going to close the public hearing and open to the board for discussion. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you coming up, sir. I apologize.
I'm Mike Dennis. I live at 110 Gadwell Drive. And
you might want to reopen the public
I'm
hearing.
going to reopen the public hearing. I apologize. I didn't see you coming up. You're camoed on me. You camouflaged up on me. I couldn't see you.
I live at 110 Gadwell Drive, and I don't feel like that the bald eagle is endangered, but I feel like the commercial fisherman is very endangered. We're the endangered species here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak on this?
My name's Terry Overton. I live at 115 Alex Lane. I obviously did not buy the house on Brabble. The whole neighborhood signed petitions and ran me out, so I moved to 115 Alex Lane, and here I am again. I support commercial fishing. I'm a second-generation commercial fisherman. My family's been here their entire lives, and I'm willing to fight for what I believe in. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else would like to speak?
Good evening, everybody. I'm from Virginia, and I don't have a bone in this fight, but I do have something I'd like to say. My son died on the way to work. He was a commercial fisherman in 2007. He was on his way to the boat, and he died. He loved this waterway. He loved this place because he could come down here and spend time with his cousin on the water. They crabbed together as boys. They grew up as men, making a business out of it. And he died on his way to work because he loved what he did. Now, I support what beautifying our neighborhoods, keeping our neighborhoods safe for our children, for anybody growing up. I've had a place at Bells Island for 9 years. I love North Carolina. I love this area. I spend a lot of time. I run the crabs up north that we pick up, that the crabbers bring in. I take them up north and sell them up there. I've been doing this now for 4 years because my son, that's what he'd be doing today if he was still alive. But I support the crabbers because these guys are the hardest working guys you ever want to meet. They get up in the morning, they go out in conditions that you and I wouldn't take our boats out in. And they go out there and they catch food for everybody that wants to eat from here all the way up to Baltimore. I run to Baltimore, I run to Pennsylvania. I take crabs all the way up where people can't get crabs except from North Carolina. So I don't have a bone in this fight, but I do have a real passion for what these guys do. And the fact is, I think we can all work together to make it better for the neighborhoods. If the crabbers are willing to work to make it better, and the neighbors are willing to understand that these guys have to work, that's what makes everything work around here. It'll be better for everybody. Thank you for your time.
Sir, thank you for your comments. Can you please give us your name?
My name is David Sumrell, 769 Bells Island Road.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
But I had a comment or two. I
Yes,
think
sir.
there's been a misconception. We're not here against crabbers. You guys have got a job to do to figure out where they fit in. It's not that we oppose having crabbers. And there's guys that I know that are personal friends of mine. They've been crabbing for years. I didn't build a house next to their crab place because I didn't want to be next to a crab house. I've got a house now, and I don't want a crabber next to my house. So y'all need to figure out how there can be a spot where these guys can work and do their thing, because they're as important in this community as anybody. And I don't want to take anything from them, but it's just that we need to get together and work together and work this thing out.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
It was mentioned a while ago about the people moving from Virginia down here, buying a place down here. Well, I can remember on Bells Island when there was hardly nobody there but commercial fishermen. Now look how many houses are there now. Thank y'all.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else would like to speak on this issue?
We got one more. We got two more. We got them coming out from Woodford.
How you doing? I'm Aaron Lowry, live at 186 Tice Road, and I just want to say that I'm supporting them because I feel like these guys are spending gas money every day going in and out of these boats and the trucks. And if it comes to a truck coming down the road and you got 20 some houses back there, maybe county might think about putting some pavement down. I mean, that's just my thought, but you got a lot of they're buying lunches, breakfasts, dinners, food, groceries, everything out of here. Not to mention what they're bringing in with the taxes and stuff of selling the crabs. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir.
Let me just throw out as a point of clarity. In North Carolina, DOT owns the roads in Currituck County. Currituck has no...
I'm sorry.
That's okay, but that's the second time someone's referred to paving, and we are, by statute, not allowed to do that.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
How y'all doing? I'm Jesse Ward, 116 Baxter's Lane. I just want to say that I support the commercial fishermen. I've commercial fishermen for a while with Wayne, and they're just out here trying to make a living, just like everybody else is. The people that have moved towards the commercial fisherman industry, they obviously bought the houses that were beside the commercial fishermen. And obviously they didn't have a problem then. And I just want y'all to think about that, and how other people make their livings. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to this issue? Seeing none, I'm sorry.
One more again. I'll keep it short. I just want to reiterate that the reason for this text amendment is that currently there's not zoning verbiage that's sufficient to keep a commercial fishing operation. So when you're saying that you want to not put the guys out of business, that's kind of what you're doing. If it's enforced, it's not grandfathered. I mean, of course, there's deed restrictions for subdivisions already, but this allows for a fence so that people don't have to see it anymore. It will actually increase the beautification of the neighborhood because currently you don't have to have a fence. These things are put up here to allow for the businesses to continue, but to try to find a happy medium on the neighborhood beautification. But it's still allowing these guys to work. They average about $553 per trip. You cannot rent a commercial space on the water if one exists for that. Thank you.
I can't stand it.
Then come on up.
I'm coming. I'm Watson Stewart. I live at 773 Bells Island Road. Been a commercial fisherman on my lot for 50 years. I don't know where this gentleman come up with the smell. All the bait's froze. All the crabs are alive. If they're dead, we can't sell them. So I don't know where they're coming up with all the smell. I don't know. I guess maybe I've been lucky. I had good neighbors. I've been there for a good 50 years. There's so much of it there that just goes on. Mr. Davis done spoke twice. He used to own the Currituck Canal, the marina, and the whole thing. He had gas in the river, oil. People smelled it. He had boats coming and going all night long, trucks filling tanks and everything else. But he's against the commercial fishermen. I don't know why the commercial fishermen have to struggle in this county to have a place to tie their boat, keep a few crab pots in the yard. If you don't want to see them, put a fence around them. It don't make sense. Commercial fishermen is one of the only jobs that Currituck County has got. They got farming in Currituck County. Commercial fishermen fall behind it. Next thing. They go along, the county commissioners in the residential areas, all these areas, they leave the commercial fishermen out every time they've done it. I've talked about it. I've, been that way all my life. So I don't know. I've been happy. I don't have a whole bunch of bad neighbors. I got plenty of neighbors, plenty of friends. The trucks come and go. All these other people in the county, they got all kinds of business. They park all their trucks in the yard, their ladders on their trucks and everything else. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all see them. When we come home, put 2 crab pots in the yard, everybody's mad at us. We go out crabbing in the morning, they're mad at us. They see a truck come down the road with the thing on the side, to sell, buying crab, they're mad at us. It don't make sense. I don't know what the solution to the problem is, but you need one. I don't see where, I don't know. I don't know why everybody's against the commercial fishermen to start with. The hard-working people that get up in the morning early. We work 7 days a week. Most people work 4 or 5 days a week. We work real hard. If you don't want to see the stuff, put a fence up. The odors that y'all are talking about, I've been in it all my life and know nothing about it. If it did smell something, it was money. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think we can sit here and discuss this all night long. We've got so many people who are against it, who are for it. And as new board members, I really don't think that I could make an informed decision without us researching it a little bit more. I'm certainly for commercial fishermen, but I'm certainly for homeowners also. And we've got to have a happy medium like Mr. Beaumont. We need to make sure we get it right. And so I certainly think we need to, I guess we'd call it, table it and ask for a work session and come back, because we can go on all night long. And I don't know if I need to make it into a motion or
We're in public hearing right now,
I
public
thought
comment.
he had closed it several times.
Well, we keep reopening it. I can't see that far, I guess.
All right.
So we're going to let this young lady speak.
Hi, I'm Sharon Kennard. I live at 107 Alex Lane. My husband and I built a house 4 years ago. Wayne Birch was crabbing then. It was not a problem at all. Never was a problem. It was there when we built our home. Last year, we heard through the grapevine that he was going big. We didn't know what that meant. Well, the last year, we found out what it meant. Cars, tractor trailers, all the time up and down the road. If you come to our neighborhood, it's very small. Our street is very small. It's really out of hand. If you go and look at his yard, it's really bad, guys. I don't care. I look down the canal. I see the boats. I see the crab pots. We have no problem with that. But going wholesale and what he's doing in our neighborhood is just wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
What size lot? We own 2 lots. We have about probably half acre. No, together. They're zoned together. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I just clarify? When I addressed earlier, the gentleman came up here. I've been in the county 50 years as well, and I'm for the crabbers. I've worked on some of these fishing crab boats when I was young. And the comment I was stating is that I'm aware of some of the cult at some of the canals where they can back up, where Mr. Kearns has addressed that. I've seen that. And we had a neighbor that had a bunch of crab pots and didn't do a good job cleaning his boat up, and there was odors, but we didn't complain to nobody. We just let it be. Now, you're right. If the boats are cleaned, everything's upkept, that's one thing. That's where our ordinances and watching what's done, you would address that. But you're right. Crabbing is a heritage. It's a good thing. If everybody's doing the right things out there, there's probably a few people that don't. I've experienced it, unfortunately. But I think Commissioner Etheridge is correct. I don't think as a board we're ready at this point. There's some clarity in the verbiage as well as traffic, and that we need to clean up before we make a decision. And I would suggest possibly the second meeting in January probably would be a good time frame to allow us to have a work session and then act on this. Okay.
Thank you. Is there any more comments, public comments? Going once. Okay. I will now close the public hearing and open the floor for discussion with the board.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we table this until our second meeting in January, and that we also schedule a work session beforehand. And I think it might be a good idea also if we try to visit the area.
I'd second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion is moved. Tabled till January 6th, second meeting in January. Okay, we're good. We'll move on to new business. Consideration and action for PB 15-16 Moyock Commons Phase 2. Yeah. Yeah.
He's going.
We're going to take a 5-minute recess. Okay, board is back in session. Next item on the agenda is consideration and action for PB 15-16 Moyock Commons Phase 2. Dan, if you can start, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request for reconsideration of a subsequent similar request. To give a little context, you can see on the aerial photograph there's 2 parcels of land that total approximately 50 acres are located in the Moyock Township behind the food line adjacent to the Quail Run subdivision. This property was proposed for a conditional district single-family mainland zoning change to allow a higher density or to allow residential development that, as part of that proposal, would connect to the county water and sewer systems. That property was considered by the Board of Commissioners on December 7th, 2015. That conditional district single-family mainland rezoning request was denied by the Board of Commissioners at that time. Our ordinance states that if a rezoning application or an action of the board is denied, an applicant has to wait a period of 1 year from the date of the denial until they resubmit a subsequent or similar application. So what that means is if you get denied for a rezoning, you've got to wait a year before you can come back and reapply. In this particular case, Mr. Friedman did request a subsequent similar application be accepted, and that request was denied again by the board on March 21st, 2016. So in other words, he came back in March and asked if he could go ahead and reapply for rezoning for these 2 tracts of land. That request to reapply was denied because it was stated by the board that it was too similar to the previous request that was denied. If the board does allow an applicant to apply within that 1-year wait period, the board has to make one of 4 findings. The 4 findings you have to make, which are in your staff report, is that, number 1, there's a substantial change in circumstances relevant to the application, that new or additional information is available that was not available at the time of the original decision, the new application proposed to be submitted is materially different from the prior application, or the final decision of the prior application was based on a material mistake of fact. If the board can make one of those 4 findings, they can allow an applicant to submit a similar subsequent rezoning request within that 1-year period. What you have before you tonight is another request submitted by Mr. Friedman to allow him to go ahead and move forward with a rezoning of this 50 acres you see on the screen. Now, one thing I'll note, and I'm not sure to the extent to which Mr. Friedman was aware of this when he submitted this request, but this property, as I mentioned a second ago, the original rezoning request was denied on December 7th, so this property actually, in fact, a new rezoning application can be submitted on December 8th. And so tonight we're at December 5th, so if the board were to grant this request, what you would do is provide about 3 days of relief. So I'll give you that to consider as you consider this item tonight. With that, I can answer any questions you have. If the board is inclined to either deny or approve this request for a subsequent similar application, I would encourage you, particularly if you approve it, to consider the findings that you must make in order to do so. And I can answer any questions you have. about this request.
Mr. Woody, has he met any of those criteria?
At this point, I don't think that he has. I would note that when the original request came in on March 21st, it was a different zoning district. The original denial was conditional district, single-family mainland. In March, he asked for MXR. At that time, the board decided that was not or did not meet any of these four criteria. To my knowledge, nothing. Mr. Friedman hasn't provided me additional information at this point regarding those four findings. So I'm going to answer with no, I'm not aware of anything that's changed.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we deny this request so that he can bring back a proper application so that the new board members will have an opportunity to review that and make a vetted decision on the zoning.
Can I get a second?
I've made a motion.
I'm looking for a second.
And Mr. Woody, or Mr. McCree, does the applicant present during this proceeding?
I think it certainly is appropriate for the applicant to present justification to the board why you should grant the waiver.
Mr. Friedman, would you like to speak to this issue?
Mr. Chairman, I'll rescind my motion until after Mr. Friedman has his time.
Noted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The reason that we brought the last application is because it wasn't similar, even though the staff reports and even Mr. Beaumont said it was different, but it was similar. It's not similar. We applied for single-family mainland originally on this 51 acres, and then we applied under this application for MXR as a base zoning district, which does not require a plan. So there's no way anybody could say it's similar if it doesn't require to show a layout. So it's there, under anybody's definition, it can't be considered similar, even though Mr. Woody, if somebody comes in with a base MXR versus a single-family mainland conditional zoning that has a layout, in your professional opinion, is that similar?
The MXR district does allow multifamily uses and commercial uses, so you could certainly propose a development in MXR that is dissimilar from one in single-family mainland.
And if you pull up my application on your computer, you will see that I applied for just MXR. It wasn't conditional MXR. So I think there's been a semantic problem, Mr. Chairman, regarding what we wanted to do with the property. We'd like to do a really nice planned development and do something that would fit in and have a chance to work with the staff.
If I can ask you, Mr. Friedman, what's your purpose for applying for this permit, saving yourself 3 days?
We have 3 days until our lawsuit runs out, and based on that, we can amend our lawsuit or we can dismiss it. If we're allowed to proceed under the rules and given a chance under the rules, then why wouldn't we give you a fair chance versus do it through the court system?
Under your first proposal, how many houses did you ask for that was approved?
The first proposal that we had included the front area, and we were going to redesign it all. And we've had many different plans, Commissioner Hall.
What's different than on the second one that you did that we denied?
The one that you denied had a layout that was 100 houses with some large open space and lakes, and we were going to contribute some land to the stormwater district to try and be part of the solution instead of the stormwater problem.
And what changes on this one?
Well, this one, the rules have changed. So the 100 lots don't fit under the current rules. So during our entire application process and this lawsuit, the county has changed the rules altogether. So the plan can't be similar. You agree with that, Mr. Woody?
I think similar depends on the fact that if it's single-family dwellings, if the original plan is single-family dwellings and the second plan is single-family dwellings, then one could argue that that's just a plan of single-family dwellings.
But under your base zoning district, which anybody can apply for in your county, you don't exactly tell people what to put there until they bring their plan forward. This is just about zoning. This is not about lot layouts.
I'm just trying to clarify the whole story because there's more to the story of just, hey, yes or no.
Sure. What we wanted to do is try and get the base zoning district and then work with Mr. Woody to come up with the best possible plan that will work. And for example, when this process started, I don't think you had to have 100-foot lot minimum frontage. So now you do. So, you can't have the same kind of plan. The plan can't really be similar.
All right, let me ask the next question. I can see here, new information from engineer Andy Deal stating improvements to the property's ditches will benefit the drainage district.
Yes.
I happen to have had a conversation the day after the last meeting with Andy Deal. Just ran into him at Food Line. And he explained some things to me. When I asked him why he didn't bring that forward, he was unaware and he would have to bring it up at some subsequent things. So I assume you have new information based on what he told me or what he told you?
Yes, some improvements have been made in the area. The North Carolina Department of Transportation has put some pipes under the street there. I think that the commissioners were instrumental, Currituck County commissioners were instrumental in getting NCDOT when they repaved the road from the railroad tracks to the Food Line to get some relief for that entire area. Also, what Andy Deal was talking about, when you connect ditches 4 and 5, it'll provide a lot of relief. And also, I think there's capacity in ditch number 1 that they didn't realize was there. And when I spoke to Eric Weatherly just this past week, he mentioned to me that the first 27 acres worked with 55 lots. And we have 2 other parcels. And if we stayed at less than 55 lots per parcel, if the first phase worked, the other phases should work. But
Do you have anything from Mr. Deal to show us tonight, or that you would be, other than you and I having a conversation?
Mr. Deal didn't work for me. He first worked for the homeowners against us, and then the county hired him to do some work for them. And then the county's district has hired him to make a lot of improvements that need to be made. This property pays taxes to a stormwater district. As you know, you went to the meeting, Moyock didn't want a stormwater plan. I mean, I'm a big stormwater district. So we believe that if we have a base zoning district that fits in with the land use plan, that we can come up with a plan that'll work with the science and we won't impact our neighbors.
And what hardship other than the lawsuit would it be for you to refile on December 8th?
We've had a right to try and move forward with this application all along. We've been held up. I've had a half a dozen meetings with Ben Woody about this. I mean, I've got texts back and forth from the staff where they got confused over the first phase and the second phase with community meetings. We've been through so many games. I'm just tired of the games. I mean, this property is not a low bowl like was reported to the commissioners before when they made decisions. This property is in the X zone, which is a 100-year floodplain. If it was low and it was bad, I wouldn't buy it. It's other property to be bought. So I think that this property could do well to serve the commercial area to the east. And I think we meet several of the criteria of the 4-prong test he's talking about.
Mr. Stanley, do we have anybody paying a stormwater base that affects his property in that area that wasn't there when he first applied? Stormwater tax. Do we have any group in that area that wasn't there when he first applied that is there now? Have we opened up any tax for stormwater management?
I mean, the district itself has not changed in dimensions.
Okay. So there's no change. In other words, we didn't add a new district or anything else?
We did not. We did not.
Okay.
But the district has $15,000 in it, and there's a big drainage problem. The county has ordered a study already. Eric Weatherly's got Andy Deal doing the study for you right now. He's been out there, did surveys. They've identified issues. They cleaned out ditches. I think this is an opportunity to make it better for the area. And if our plan is not better, we don't want to do it.
Flood out Quail Run.
Quail Run actually floods onto this property.
No, you'll flood out Quail Run.
Yeah. If y'all can please stop with the back and forth, I appreciate it. Mr. Woody, I would ask you again, does he fit any criteria, any of the 4 criteria needed?
The one connection, and I'll just, again, the board made a decision on this earlier this year, but in light of that, the fact that it's a different zoning district, and so the fact that he is proposing MXR, and conceivably it could be, in my opinion, because it could be apartments or other types of land uses, I think that could be different than a single-family mainland zoning district. But my opinion is, if you're proposing houses, when an application previously proposed houses, I think those are similar. But the nature of the zoning district he's asking for, it can be different. So that's kind of the conundrum with the request, in my opinion.
So I guess, can I ask Ben a question?
Yes, you may.
So why do you have 2 zoning districts? You've got MXR and you got single-family mainland. You only need one if they're the same.
Correct. The MXR is a second and different and distinct district because, number one, it allows higher density development. Number 2, it allows commercial uses and attached housing. So it does allow a broader mix of uses. So in and of itself, it is a different zoning district and conceivably should be a different plan.
But under single-family mainland, can't you also have duplexes? You can have home-based businesses. You can have all kinds of things.
You can have duplexes under single-family mainland, but you can't have attached housing and commercial to the intensity that you can of MXR, which is what I think sets it apart from single-family mainland.
This is full service.
Correct.
So MXR would not be out of character.
MXR would be an appropriate zoning district for full service. Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Woody. Thank you, Mr. Friedman.
Thank you, sir.
I would open the floor for discussion. I would open the floor for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll again make a motion to deny the request for an early review of the zoning, for it to be for Mr. Friedman to reapply once the 1-year waiting period is complete.
Can I get a second? The motion dies. Any further discussion? Can y'all please keep it down out there? What will we do at this point?
If you're unable to if you're unable to have a motion and a second, then you move on to the next item on the agenda. No action would be taken.
No action will be taken.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
If he has changed, he has the 4 things have to change, or just one thing?
One of the 4. You have to make one of the 4 findings to authorize a resubmittal before December 8th.
And this isn't approving any more than just he can go forward with it.
Correct.
Correct?
It's changing the zoning.
No, it doesn't change. You're not actually changing the zoning of the property. What you'd be doing is allowing him to submit a new zoning application before December 8th.
And he could submit for single family, and some of the things that he offered before could be offered again. Am I understanding it correctly?
The challenge procedurally is he's proposed to you for your consideration that he'll submit MXR zoning district, which again I said I think can be considered different than single-family mainland because it has more uses. But the other thing that Mr. Friedman mentioned is he said he would submit it as what's called a straight MXR. So that means if you consider an MXR zoning district, he's not bound by the things that he says or the plans he provides to you. The only way to bind an applicant to plans or things he says is through conditional zoning. And he may yet submit it that way. I don't know which way he's going to submit the MXR, but in order to be held to what he's saying, it needs to be a conditional zoning application.
Motion dies. Moving on, consideration of resolution authorizing upset bid process pursuant to GS 160A-269.
Mr. Chairman, the board previously authorized a solicitation by public notice in a newspaper for opening bids for a piece of county property located in Corolla, known as the Cattle Dip. If any of you are familiar with Ponton Lane, it's a dirt road that leads off of NC 12 heading in a westerly direction. And then this particular, about a 1 acre piece of property known as the Cattle Dip, is as the lane veers to the right and kind of up behind the villages at Ocean Hill. The county received this piece of property in about 1994 from owners at the time who had no desire to retain it and did not want to continue to pay property tax on it. They gave it to the county by deed. The county has no use for this particular piece of property. And again, one of the reasons for seeking solicitations to be able to start the process to sell the property and get it back on the tax rolls. A bid has been received from Charles S. Friedman in the amount of $100. If the board will adopt this resolution, it will allow us to then begin the upset bid process that would call for publication of this in the newspaper for a period of 10 days. If no upset bid is received, then county officials would be instructed to convey by deed to Mr. Friedman this particular piece of property for the amount that he bid. We'd recommend, or I'd recommend, that you adopt the resolution and proceed forward with the process.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we proceed with the upset bid program at this time.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is board appointments. In January 2017, the terms of the current 5 members of the Wellhead Stormwater Drainage Service District Advisory Boards expire. There are 5 names that they have given to us to approve for them to be the board members. I would open the floor for a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. The next item on the agenda would be ABC board appointments.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask that the appointments to the ABC board be voided because the individuals did not submit an application, which, according to the board's own unwritten rules, there was supposed to be an application. And Mr. Adlett was appointed before the new board was sworn in. So according to my understanding of the North Carolina law and general statute, he's still a commissioner until his replacement is sworn in. So I don't understand how he could be appointed to the ABC board as a sitting commissioner. So I'd like for the appointments to be voided for Mr. Adlett and also for Sybil O'Neill.
I'll second that.
Mr. McCree,
Any discussion?
Well, I think I would note, first of all, there is no specific requirement that anyone submit an application for appointment to the board, to a county board. Secondly, there is also, I think there's misunderstanding that there's some prohibition on county commissioners being appointed to the ABC board, but there is no such prohibition in your rules or in the county ordinances. I guess I would caution the board that with the appointment motion that took place earlier tonight, effective immediately, that then has given these two appointees, in my opinion, a seat on the ABC board, and they could only be removed in one of two ways, either for just cause, which would require some form of due process, such as notification and opportunity to be heard before they are voted off that board, or someone who voted affirmatively earlier tonight to appoint them would make a motion to reconsider that previous action by the board.
And Mr. Chair, let me just state too, I mean, I'm a sitting commissioner, and I was appointed to the ABC board, recently as well. So, I mean, that has taken place.
Well, if you were appointed to the ABC board and then another commissioner was appointed to the ABC board, at the time he was appointed, he was still a county commissioner. I have a problem with that. I think y'all had rules and regulations that y'all have sat in the audience and heard y'all state that you wanted applications, you wanted to review them beforehand, and I think we all know why the appointment or the nomination was made the way it was.
The concern I have is, and I understand from both sides, but when the first time it happened, Commissioner Idlett was nominated and he withdrew it. There were comments made back and forth that were wrong, but I'll leave it at that. So we agreed that we would table it or withdraw it. And then it came back to a time, not even 2 weeks later, that not only was he asked for to be on the board again, but a second person who did not fit in our agreement. Nothing in writing, but an agreement that from the day, this board asked that we not have a family member or an elected official on it, not even 2 weeks later that she threw a second person that didn't fit the rules. And after checking into it, yes, we can violate our own rules when they're not written, even though we've agreed to them. And yes, then we can turn right around and put them back in effect again. But that's wrong. And I would again ask, based on the appointments, to rescind the appointments and let us vet them properly. I would ask, again, the comments that were made that night, that we wouldn't appoint anybody on this new board versus the old board. Give the new board a chance.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to ask a clarification question. Maybe Ms. Walton could help answer. Has board appointments in the past from a majority of the members appointed board members that have gotten approved prior to having applications in hand? Has that taken place quite a bit?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I, again, will say I have seen y'all approve board members, not all of y'all, the previous board, who they didn't even know who they were approving till I told them. So I really would like to see their names rescinded.
And again, I can only reiterate the fact that I've had people sitting in this 7 right now that have said we're not going to approve it because they don't have an application. I withdrew a name and the application was filed. We checked with the people that were still waiting on the waiting list and got no respondents. At that time, that name came forward at the next available meeting and he was placed on the board. So again, we need to be more careful on the rules that we choose, even though they may be unwritten, that we back and forth on. But again, it's happened where I've withdrawn a name because there wasn't an application.
Mr. McCree, can you please go over the rules again for removing a board member?
Yes. Most of your boards that the county commissioners have created and appoint members to, the members serve at your will or your pleasure. But there are some exceptions if the statute makes an exception, which it does relative to an ABC board. The general statute states that an ABC board member may only be removed for cause. And that raises, again, the bar on what must be taken into consideration before dismissing someone or removing them from that board. And so that would be some due process, which would be, again, notice to that individual of the reason why they are being considered for removal from the board, and an opportunity to appear before you and be heard before action is taken removing them.
I'd like to ask a question. So when I was sitting out in the audience, was I county commissioner? Was I on this board?
Not until you were sworn in.
Not till I was sworn in, and these two individuals have not been sworn in.
Well, I'm not sure that to qualify for appointment requires swearing. I don't believe you took an oath of office for the ABC board. I can't find in the general statute that there's a requirement for an oath of office. So absent that, I mean, they are deemed to begin their term upon the effectiveness or the effective point in time of the appointment. And so tonight that was made effective immediately.
Mr. Freeman, did you have any paperwork or anything you had to fill out when you became an ABC appointment, or any ethics to make sure there was no conflicts?
When I was appointed, I did not have an application in place for it at the time, no.
Okay. And did you have any ethics or anything that you had to sign or fill out so there was no conflict when you became a member of the ABC board?
I don't believe I did, other than just the general ethics that I took as a commissioner.
Thank you.
I think this is a great opportunity for us as a board to unite and move forward. We are going to have a lot of board appointments that we need to make, each one of us, and the contingency of undoing an appointment for a previous board. Both of these members were appointed to fill a existing seat, and I made the appointment of Vance Idlet in honor of my conversation with Martha Barco to replace Gary, from whom passed in July. So I'm not sure why there's so much controversy with this, but we are each going to have the opportunity to make appointments going forward, and the terms will expire, and then more appointments can be made.
And I would also like to say that I want to work together with the board. Y'all would have never, ever made this effective immediately if Mike Payman had not received an email where I asked him about this, because you would have had no way to know it.
Ms. Etheridge, let me correct you. I told myself when you sent me the text that I was going to keep quiet about this, because if I were to bring this up, this would be the exact thing that would come out, and I figured, well, it's probably going to come out the test to see if I'm going to talk to the other commissioners, and I did not. I was approached by this from somebody else.
And again, the appointments, well, you'll have an opportunity to make the appointments, and I made my decision to amend our agenda and have this appointment after I read through the minutes, because if you recall at the last meeting, I was honoring the request of Mr. Hall to extend that till later, and make that appointment after the 6th or whatever. So I stand with the appointments that were made this evening, and we have a motion on the floor. So
We do have a motion on the floor, and it's my understanding from Mr. McCree that we can't remove them without cause. So there is a motion on the floor. Without hearing a second, the motion dies.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
it seems what's coming out of this, if I may, is that we need to adopt a policy and put it in writing to deal with board appointments going forward. I myself don't know everybody in the county. I meet a lot of new people, obviously, doing this since I live in Corolla. One of the things that I've watched out of this is that the board appointments have come out of nowhere at several of the meetings, and oh yeah, I got this person. Oh yeah, we'll get the application turned in on Tuesday, without the board knowing who's coming or going. It seems to me that we need to add this to the
maybe to the agenda packet if they filled out an application, so that each of us knows who's coming through or down the pipe, especially me, being that I'm not over here on the mainland, just so I have some idea of who's coming forward. And I think, Commissioner Gilbert, that's part of the crux of the problem. It seemed like you said it was July that this seat came open, and it was rushed through at the last minute. And that's probably, I think, why we, had a hard time with it, is all of a sudden it was, we got to get this done. And, we just want to try to work together, but at the same time, that makes it very hard. If you can look at it from our side, all of a sudden, here we go. Now, had Vance filled out an application, I probably would have been inclined to give it to him. I mean, the man did serve our county for 8 years and is certainly entitled to serve on a board. But we weren't given that opportunity as individuals to make that decision. And it seemed like it just hung out there in the air forever, and all of a sudden, here it is. So that's all I've got to say on the subject. Thank you.
Mr. Scanlon, was that something you can assist us with?
With the board having a formal policy on board appointments?
Yes, sir.
We certainly
Is
can.
We can bring back an amendment to your ordinance. You have an ordinance that sets out pretty extensive steps for appointing someone to a board and requirements, but we can certainly add.
And none of those steps are required to have an application?
In addition to, Mr. Hall brought up about the ethics, so we were discussing that back this summer also, so I'd like for you to add that in the verbiage of having some ethics training and that type of thing.
But I think we wanted to have your board members to, at a minimum, comply with the same code of ethics that commissioners are required to conform to under the code of ordinances.
So if you would
we could bring
incorporate
that amendment back as well.
Thank you.
Moving on, the next agenda item is the Whalehead Service District Subdivision Improvement Advisory Board. In January 2017, the terms of the current, excuse me?
Mr. Chairman, you've addressed that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I believe your next item was
Actually,
board
my apologies.
board times.
My apologies. I didn't remember us getting through that. I apologize.
Turn it over.
Right. The next thing would be public comment discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I think you amended your agenda to include a conversation about your meeting times, and I think you added,
And then next would be meeting times.
Chairman.
Sorry, I got confused on that. It's easily done.
A year ago, we moved meeting times from 7 to 5. We also moved public comment from first to last. There was a lot of discussion between board members trying to work out a deal to where we thought it was best served. At that time, it became 5 o'clock, and public comment second. Just recently, we had it where we moved it to 6 o'clock. I would ask at this time that we move public comment back to the front of the 6 o'clock meeting. And we can always revisit the time itself, but to move public comment back to the forefront to give our citizens a chance to tell us what's going on before we get into the business. But leaving the meeting at 6 o'clock at this time after discussing it with several board members. So I make a motion we move the meeting times to the forefront.
Mr. Chairman, the way your agendas are put together is done on an ordinance. So if the board would like to amend how they put it together, staff would have to bring you back and a change to the ordinance and would have to have a public hearing, but which we certainly can schedule for your next meeting, but you would not be able to address it tonight.
We don't need a public hearing on a general police power ordinance, but it would be necessary to have an ordinance amendment that at its first reading would require a unanimous vote of the board. And if a unanimous vote is not achieved, then it would come back for a second reading, at which time it may be adopted by a simple majority vote.
Then I withdraw my motion and ask to have this ordinance drafted.
We can certainly put it on your next meeting for consideration as a first reading where it could pass by unanimous vote.
Thank you, Mr. McCree. Next item is sorry.
Has that been done, or?
He just said it was done. He would do it.
Then the other thing that I would suggest is that in keeping with the public comment section being moved to the beginning of the meeting, I would also request that time be reduced to 3 minutes as it was before.
I don't have a problem with
I
that.
would not have a problem to move it back the way it was.
Any further discussion on that? Next item is the consent agenda. Looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the Commissioner's Report. If we can start with you, Mr. Beaumont.
Coming out of Thanksgiving, thank God Thanksgiving you survived. The only comment I would make was I did have the opportunity to attend the parade and the lighting of the Christmas tree this year. And the first thing I would say would be thank God the weather was as nice as it was, because it's probably the nicest weather I think we've had for one of those parades. I read in the advance that attendance was north of 500, and looking at the number of folks that were there, I would absolutely believe it. So I think it was a great time for Currituck to come together, or at least those that were within driving distance. And anyway, just since we are not going to have another meeting this month, would wish everyone a happy and Merry Christmas, and please be safe when you travel. That way we can see you at next year's meetings. That's it.
Ms. Etheridge.
I'd just like to thank the voters of Currituck County, and as we said, we certainly hope we can all work together. And I certainly will do my best for the citizens of Currituck County, and I'll go along with Mr. Beaumont. Merry Christmas.
Mr. White.
Thank you. Well, since I haven't attended anything yet other than commissioner meetings, I don't have much to say. But we do have a couple items of note. In Corolla, we had the Wellhead Club will be lit this Friday at 5:45, and the local school will be doing some caroling over there. So if anybody's in Corolla, please stop by. It was a great show last year they put on, and they'll be lighting the lighthouse as well. And we'll have, if you're in Corova, Santa's going to be in Corova at the fire station this weekend as well. And thank you to the voters. I look forward to working with the rest of the board, and I wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Mr. Payment.
Thank you. Just a couple notes. Just please remember your fire departments out there. There's been a lot of structural fire calls coming in lately. If you can volunteer again or do anything you can to help, I know they'd appreciate it. Again, just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. You just want to reiterate to the board members here that I do respect all of our conversations that I have with board members. I've always stated that. I've always believed in that, and I'll respect any conversations that we have. And I know my wife's birthday is today, and I know she was hoping to be back sooner than 9 o'clock, but that's the way it goes. And that's all I got to say.
Ms. Gilbert.
I too would just want to reiterate, I attended the parade also Friday night, and it was heartwarming to see how many community organizations were involved and the outturn of citizens that were there. It was just a joyous occasion, and I just appreciate all of those that actually planned and orchestrated and decorated floats. It was just very heartwarming, and two, I just wish everybody a Merry Christmas and just remember the reason for the season.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Hall.
Again, folks, as you heard tonight, we have plenty of boards that we'd like you all to sit on. We'd like to hear your input. Please go on the websites, come to the county and say, hey, folks, even in person, I'd like to see what list you have. If you don't have a computer or have access to one, we'll do what we can to get you filled out. There are quite a few, and we would ask for your input because without you, we can't succeed. It's a team effort. Next, I would like to also remind, as Commissioner Payment said, about the season. This is the holiday season. We light candles. We put space heaters. We put wall heaters, things next to drapes. Please be careful when you do these things or overload your circuits. This is where we lose a few members or houses in this time of year, and all of you are worthwhile to save, and I want to see you here next meeting, so please be careful. And thank you for letting me serve you as your vice chair. Merry Christmas.
I would add to Mr. Hall's statement. If you see a problem in the county and you want it fixed, don't just complain about it. Come up and be part of the solution. We encourage that. We encourage your input. The residents of Currituck County have a lot to offer to the commissioners. I think your knowledge of the area and what this county needs is important for us to hear. So please don't be afraid to pick up the phone, call your commissioner. That's what we're here for. We're here to serve you. Again, I wish you all a Merry Christmas. Please be safe. Maybe call an old friend or an old family member this year. It might make you feel pretty good. So I wish you all a Merry Christmas. With that, I'll give the county manager's report.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we will go into public comment section. And the first person wishing to speak is Doris Flora.
Good evening. Commissioners
Good evening.
and staff, welcome new commissioners. Good luck in your endeavor. I'm sure that you're going to find that you have to work very hard and things will get tougher, because I've seen some of these people that are already on the board. I don't know how they do it and work too. I mean, because it's full time, I'm sure. I won't think I could do it. I do want to have I have a little concern, a big concern really, is about the speakers and hearing out in the audience. Some of us out there are hearing impaired. And we can't understand nor hear you. I don't even know if you can hear me. You can hear me, but can you hear me? You have to project your speech, and you have to do it in a tone. Some of you cut your mics off when you finish. I don't know why, but sometimes you forget to turn it back on before you speak. I would appreciate it if you would give us hearing impaired people a little bit of courtesy and letting us know what you're saying and why. I wouldn't come to these meetings if I didn't want to know. I want to support you. I want to hear what's going on. If I have an opinion, I will tell you. If I don't, I wouldn't say anything at all. I want to help you do your job. I think I have done that in the past when I feel like that maybe we needed to have a little bit of chit-chat and make me understand why you said what you said and when you said it and how you said it. So we would appreciate that greatly. I don't know, you have to project your speech. And tonight, all of those people that came up and about the crab whatever, half of those I couldn't understand. Even the guy that was that tall, I couldn't hear him say. I couldn't hear him at all. He's projecting to you. He's not projecting back this way. It doesn't go there. And I had heard a lot of people in the audience shaking their head and and that type of thing. So I would appreciate it if we could do that. I will also give you another hint that when you're speaking, you're sitting back. All of a sudden you lean back. You're 3 feet from your microphone. You look over here, the microphone doesn't hear you. You turn your head over here to speak, your mic doesn't hear you. I wouldn't come to these meetings. My husband and I, you know that we come to all the meetings. Very few. I bet we haven't missed 2 since we've been coming all these many years. And I think that we need the courtesy of being able to hear and understand what you're telling us. I've learned a lot, and I think I've supported you in a lot of times when I'm out in the public and I hear comments. What they say is not what you said. And I do tell them, hey, no, you need to go to the commissioners meeting and find out what's really going on. When you get this tail back from somebody, it's like the little whisper game that we used to play in school. When it gets to the tail end, it wasn't what was said to start with. So we need to have and be able to understand you and hear you. I want to be here to support you. I think I've done that for many years, and I would thank you for your help.
Thank you, Ms. Flora.
Ms. Flora, I also want to add to that. Thank you and Frank so much, because you are very supportive and you're here every meeting, even if it's in climate weather. So thank you for your support and just being here and just having warm, smiling faces in the audience. And we appreciate all that you do. You've spent many years volunteering in the community and you continue to do that. So I personally want to thank you and Frank for what you do.
Thank you.
Norman Bebo.
Hi, good evening. I'm Norman Bebo. I guess most of you guys know me. I own a lot of vacations and University Park. And I'm here tonight, and I think a lot of the commissioners know the issue that I've had at University Park with the quote-unquote buffer area that I have there and the definition of a buffer. And what I'm asking the commissioners for is basically an understanding and a process of how you go about when minutes of a meeting at a commissioners meeting, which I attended in July of 2013, are misinterpreted and put down wrong as the minutes, how that gets corrected without me having to start the whole process again. And what I'm referring to is that at the meeting on July 15, 2013, what was approved by Commissioner Griggs and the rest of the board was that I agreed to a 25-foot buffer between my property and the property next door. I also agreed that we would not have egress to Mobile Road through a new road that was going to be constructed. That was what I agreed to. When the minutes were written, somehow the word undisturbed buffer was put into the minutes. If you go back and you look at the tape, which I've looked at a number of times from July 15th, 2013, it clearly says a buffer will be, a 25-foot buffer will be in place between the two properties. And the part of the egress to Mobile Road is clear there as well. I can't seem to get this taken care of without now the county is telling me that I have to go back and start from scratch, that I have to now come back to you guys, go to the planning department with a brand new set of plans, like I'm doing this from scratch. I've already got 3 buildings built, a swimming pool, a clubhouse. This isn't something I'm starting today. This is something that's in effect, but I'm being told I have to go back to you, to the planning department, submit a plan, go back to the planning board. We have to have a public hearing. Then the planning department approves it. Then I have to go back in front of the commissioners for them to say, yes, we will remove that word undisturbed. But what does that mean? I'm being told now that if we remove the word undisturbed, that just means that I can go in and take out dead debris and diseased trees. Right now, I'm not supposed to do it. I'm not even supposed to walk on my own property. What the county is telling me is that I have given up 25 feet of my property, 1,000 feet long, and that I can't remove dead and diseased trees that were knocked over from both hurricanes, Hermine and Matthew. I have people living in these properties. I have people living in these townhomes. I have one family with an autistic kid. I have another one with small children. They can't be out playing in the yard back there with these trees. The county tells me you can't touch them. Well, you know what? If someone gets hurt there, if someone gets killed, whose responsibility is it? Is the county going to take responsibility when that person dies and a lawsuit comes, or are they going to come to me? What I'm looking for is there's got to be a better way. Can you guys not just go back and look at the tape and say to me, you're right, there was an error made. Somebody just transcribed it wrong. That word wasn't there. This is not fair to me. It's cost me tens of thousands of dollars. And right now my project is on hold. Anyone who's been there knows I have put together a beautiful project. I was one of the first to do something in Lower Currituck. Now we've got a water park coming. But yeah, I stepped up to the plate. I'm investing $10 million in Lower Currituck. And I think the least that the county can do, that the least the commissioners can do, is look at this, review this, and give me a fair shake at this, because what I'm getting right now is totally, totally unfair.
Thank you, Mr.
you for
Vivo.
listening.
Steve Fentress.
Good evening to the new commissioners and hello to the old. My name is Steve Fentress, and there's 4 people up there, or maybe more, that have seen me in here before. I want to bring to the new commissioners' attention an item that has been ongoing in this county for over a year. Just to let you know, you may be visited with this same item, excuse me, that was adjudicated back in April 4th of this year. There was a lawsuit against the county because of the board's decision, which was done correctly and honestly and fairly. Our community of the preservation of Brandy and the concerned citizens there have been totally involved in this for the last year and a half. I have followed every drawing that has come through 2 solar farms, including Moyock and Shawboro, and know them basically by heart. My 32 years of construction experience as an unlimited contractor in commercial, marine, and heavy, highway and heavy, gave me that expertise to study those drawings as closely as I did. Again, the board, there was only 6 members there. Lance Idley was not present. Unanimously denied Ecoplexus's application to build a solar plant in my backyard in Goose Creek, the old Goose Creek Golf Course. As I said, a lawsuit is pending. We have obtained a lawyer who was here at the commissioner's hearing, which I and my neighbors in the Carolina Club and on my side of the street, I'm not in the Carolina Club, I'm back up to the Goose Creek, spent $10,000 at the commissioner's hearing with our expert witnesses being a land appraiser and a lawyer, and I couldn't pay the 2 professors from NC State, but I did donate $1,000 to each of their schools for appearing here at a 5.5 hour long session, considering that permit. And now we find it's under appeal, and supposedly on December the 12th in Dare County, mind you, will this be heard by a Superior Court judge. We don't think that's fair. Our lawyer has tried, but he doesn't have standing yet in front of the court. I have his petition that is before the county clerk. He has to get standing to represent us, to help the county represent everyone here. And there's another party that's going to speak after me telling you about what we are going to spend as citizens of this county that perhaps we shouldn't have had to spend. That's the truth. Now, I'd like to hand out, I don't have the handouts for 4 sitting commissioners that were here, because you have all this information that has either been given to you during Board of Commissioners hearings or emailed to you at an email that all the board got back in October. So I apologize, I only have 3 copies of what I'd like to hand out to the new ones, just in hope that it is not all of our story, because our story, if you would just see the record of proceedings in this case that Mr. McCree handed me 3 or 4 months ago, is that thick. That thick. Out of all those things that is in there, the solar plant people got everything in there that they wanted to get in. I stood up here on April the 4th and gave out one handout, which was additional conditions to be put on solar plants if that board that night had approved it. Well, their attorney, Michael Fox, had it deleted from that record, even though I've got him in the transcript and on the tape of saying he did not have an objection of my handout being made part of the record, and it has still been deleted. We have tried to get our lawyer to talk to Mr. McCree about the inequity of having this heard in Dare County. We know the Superior Court in North Carolina works that way, and it does. Doesn't matter which building it is in which district. But it is a hardship on the many people that have put their heart and soul in fighting this solar plant to have this heard in Currituck County, and we have not had the cooperation. But we haven't had cooperation much in any of this for the past year and a half from the planning staff, and that's why we have sought to intervene with our own lawyer and hope that we are going to be successful in helping the county defend this suit. If I could, I'd like to pass out these 3 items to the 3 new commissioners, with your permission.
That'll be fine. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
I'd like to explain these to you real briefly. If I could, I know my time's about up.
Mr. Fentress, your time is up.
Excuse me?
Your time is up.
Okay, well, they're probably self-explanatory. I would like you to look at them, and hopefully we'll prevail, and hopefully you won't have to revisit this thing in the near future.
Thank you.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I just want to make clear, maybe Mr. Fentress doesn't know, but we did amend the record with the agreement of Ecoplex's attorney on October the 4th, 2016. We actually filed with the court that those pages of conditions that Mr. Fentress handed up during the course of the hearing. I spoke with Mr. Fox about amending the record to add that in recognition, as Mr. Fentress said, because Mr. Fox during the hearing acknowledged those conditions and said he agreed to their admissibility. So that now has become part of the record, Mr. Fentress.
I did not know that.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm going to take a stab at this one. Pangaroni and Sander? Angeronian. Apologies.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Sanders, and I'm a member of the historic Jarvisburg Colored School board member. I also coordinate the museum guides who volunteer to keep the museum open to the public on our scheduled days, which is on Wednesdays. And on behalf of our board member, I want to express our gratitude to the Board of Commissioners, especially to their terms of office tonight. The completion and opening of the museum has been a big accomplishment for the Currituck County this past year. We appreciate the support you have shown towards this project and look forward to sharing many stories about Currituck County Colored School. I'm a little bit nervous. Project that the support you have shown towards, and look forward to sharing our many stories about every early Currituck in the coming years. On behalf of the historic Jarvisburg Colored School volunteers, we'd like to thank you for everything that y'all had done for us to make this project successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sander. Would someone like to talk on that?
Yeah, the only thing I would like to say is I'm sorry it took so long to get your restroom facility in, because that was a challenge, because as I understand, the original plans that the board met on and decided on, evidently they'd expired, or remember the architecture, we had the 3 versions.
Yes, it expired.
And so it had expired by the time we were able to get it all taken care of. So I'm sorry it took so long, but I am very pleased with the way it turned out. So I think, ladies, good work. Good work.
John McCauley.
Good evening. My name is John McCauley. I live at 236 Grandy Road, and I too am one of the area residents that's concerned about the solar project, Echoplexus, at the Goose Creek Golf Course. After the planning board meeting, and I'm going to speak just to the economics, and the unanimous approval, we felt compelled to hire the experts, as Mr. Fentress alluded to, at an initial cost of $10,000. We are now have another 5 invested in the motion to intervene. So, now we're at basically $14,750 private citizen money. And we expect that to grow by 3 to 5 more. This is money that private citizens should not have to spend. We are asking you to aggressively defend the motion that was carried here unanimously in April. We're doing our part. We're asking you to do yours. It's coming up next week. So we're asking for your cooperation and your dedication to make sure that that's upheld. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak with public comments? I have to read that. We're going to go into closed session pursuant to GS 143-318-11A3 to consult with county attorneys to preserve attorney-client confidentially and receive information and give direction to the county attorneys in matters entitled Swan Beach Corolla LLC versus Currituck County and Coastland Corporation versus Currituck County.
That's a motion, right? Oh, Mr. Chairman, about the, in looking at this, did you also get pursuant to discuss personnel matters?
I did skip that. I apologize. Right. Sorry. My apologies. County and pursuant to GS 143-318-11A6 to discuss personnel matters. Apologies.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.